There is a ayat of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. That those people who have iman are extremely intense in the output of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from this ayat, the Shaykhs, we extract the lesson that love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not some Western thing. Love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not even a sunnah thing. But the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is present. That's the higher course of everybody. The love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is present. And the reason is because this ayat is being addressed to whom? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. But in this case, walladhina amanu, those people who have iman. Means that you want to be included amongst the alladhina amanu, the people of iman. It befits us, it behooves us that we should adorn ourselves with this attribute. And we should beautify ourselves with this muhabbat of Allah Ta'ala. This word muhabbat is a word in Arabic language which comes from habba. Habba in Arabic means a seed, a bead. An interesting thing about Arabic language is that words which are derived from the same root, they have some history with each other, some connection with each other. So the question should come in your mind, that muhabbat and habba, what is the relationship between the two? What is the relationship between love and seed? And the answer is very beautiful, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planted the seed of His muhabba in the heart of every single human being. And that is why it is human to love. The poets and philosophers, they say, it's human to love. In Islam, we have the complete statement that it's human to love the divine, it's human to love Allah. Because this seed has been given to us inside of our heart. And a very fascinating story where Allah mentions that moment when the seed was placed inside of our heart as well. Even before we were created in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathered all the human arwah, all the human spirits, and then asked them a question that, Alastu bi rabbikum, am I not your Lord? Am I not your Rabb? And all the human arwah, the human spirits will reply, and they said, Qalu bala, Allah, you are our Lord. You are our Lord. And in that moment, this was mushahid. Every single human being, they saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That the vision of Allah ta'ala, and in that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed the seed of His muhabbat in the heart of every single individual. That is why it's human to love. Just like we have these different organs, in the same way, our heart is the place in which we can love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And love for Allah Ta'ala is nur, love for Ghairullah is zulma, it's the darkness. If you do a comparison, the difference between loving Allah and loving Ghairullah is that when a person loves, when they make makhluk the object of beloved, one day there will come a day when a person will be separated from their beloved. If a person makes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala their beloved, there will come a day when a person will be united with their beloved. And another thing, another difference is that love that we have in this dunya for makhluk, उसमें गरज होता है. कोई ना कोई गरज होता है. Even it's a very pure relationship between a parent and their child, उसमें भी पीछे गरज होता है कि माँ बाप are thinking that this child will grow up, he will become a support, or एक दुष्ट बन जाएगा. and a child is not because he wants to get his needs fulfilled. Husband-wife relationship is a very pure relationship, often obedient. Even there is runs between the two. Runs of them, there is no relationship in this world which will be a razor, without razor, in which there is no ulterior motive. There's just one relationship, and that is the relationship between Abd and Allah subhanahu. The love that Allah subhanahu has for his servant, that is without us. No razor. Allah loves us for our own sake. And this is the incredible thing about this Muhammad of Allah. Once there was a shaykh who was giving a lecture on the love for Allah, Allah loves us, Allah loves us. One of the students he asked the shaykh, after what thing that he could believe in. We are living in times of reason, rationality, logic. This is proof. What is the proof that Allah loves us? And when he recited this ayat of the Quran, then Allahu waliyyul ladina amanu. That Allah is the wali, Allah is the friend of those people who have iman. And he said that understand that this verse should have been the opposite way. It should be the reverse order. The those who have iman, they befriend Allah, they become the friend of Allah. But here Allah brings himself first, that Allahu waliyyul ladina amanu. Allah loves those who have iman. Meaning for Allah, you have Muhammad to make yourself first. Allah is making himself first in this relationship. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how can a person get this love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? To get to love Allah, we need to know Allah. There is an Arabic word for this which is called ma'rifat. To know Allah. Allah says in the Quran, Ar-Rahman fas'al bihi khabira. Allah first declares himself to be all merciful, Ar-Rahman. And it says that if you really want to know who truly Ar-Rahman is, then first go ask someone, Khabira, who really knows, has this intimate profound knowledge of Allah subhanahu. Means that if you get this knowledge of Allah, if you know Allah truly and deeply and profoundly, a person will automatically fall in love with Allah subhanahu. And the question is that how can we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala such that we fall in love with Him? There's a beautiful ayat in the Quran. It's a two phrases where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that yuhibbuhum wa yuhibbunahu, that Allah loves them and they love Allah. And this is a beautiful relationship. That Muhabbat is two ways. Muhabbat is two ways. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us first. Yuhibbuhum, Allah loves you, Allah loves them, and then they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Normally you have to take the first step. In Dunyavi Muhabbat, you take the first step, the other person responds, the other person reciprocates. This is such a beautiful relationship where Allah ta'ala already loves us. And we need to view ourselves as the mahbub of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The moment you start viewing yourself as the beloved of Allah, the Mahabub of Allah, know that Allah is my lover, you will automatically want to become the lover of Allah yourself as well. This Muhabbat is two-way. Our deen is not a do-it-alone religion. Our deen, there are so many things built into our deen. This journey is, Allah Ta'ala has already initiated this journey. We are already the Mahabub of Allah, we just need to become the Mohib of Allah. We are already the beloveds of Allah, just become the lover of Allah. We are already the Murad of Allah, the besought of Allah, we just need to seek Him out. We are the Matloob of Allah. Allah has desire for us, we just need to become the Talib of Allah. We are meant to soar on the wings of this mutual love, and we can attain this marifat of Allah, the closeness of Allah. And when a person attains that level, then they would want to do ibadah, they want to worship Allah. There is no other relationship, right, where you will get to know whether the other person is happy with me or not. But this relationship with Allah is so beautiful that the rules have been given. That if you do this, I will become happy with you. If you do that, I will become happy with you. Live a life according to the Quran, Sunnah, and Sharia. You follow that, you will become my beloved. It's a very easy way, easy roadmap to becoming the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where is this muhabbat situated? This muhabbat of Allah is inside of our hearts. Just like every single thing has a purpose, every organ has a purpose,
There is one organ that Allah has placed inside of us, which is our qalb, our spiritual heart. Not the physical heart, the spiritual heart. And this spiritual heart is the seat of the marifat of Allah. It's the seat of knowing Allah, seat of loving Allah, seat of desiring Allah. This is the seat through which a person can connect with Allah. And if you work on this heart, normally if your eyes are impaired, then you have a beautiful vision in front of you, you won't be able to see it. You won't be able to appreciate the beauty. If you have a cough or a flu, you smell a fragrant rose, you won't be able to smell the fragrance. Exactly in the same way, our hearts have become crusted and rusted because of heedlessness, because of sins, because of a distance with Allah. That's why we don't get to appreciate that beauty that is there in our deen. There is a beauty in Quran. There is a beauty in Hadith. There is a beauty in Sunnah. There is a zaika, a lutf, a maza in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But because we are spiritually malnourished, spiritually malnutritioned, that's why we're not able to appreciate and feel and experience that lutf, that maza that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept in our deen for us. Just to show to you the maza that Allah ta'ala has kept in our deen, it's incredible. ये जो मज़ा है बाकी कुरान की जो आयात हैं, you understand those ayat, you reflect on those ayat, and insan ko maza aa jata hai. The kind of relationship that Allah Ta'ala has with us. You know, one of the reasons why we are distant from Allah is because we don't know how close He is to us. Now, it was possible that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have said that, look, I'm giving you the dunya, you'll be in the dunya, I'm going to meet you in akhirah. I've given you the Quran, this is a roadmap, करें आपसे मुलाकात करूंगा आखिरत के अंदर. ये हो सकता था, लेकिन Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never did that with us. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran that huwa ma'akum aina ma kuntum, that I'm with you wherever you are. We are so filthy. If I have a friend and he is smelling, मैं उसको अपने बराबर में बिठाऊंगा नहीं. मैं कहूँगा जाओ, पहले take a shower, take a bath first. To look at the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we are smelly, we are filthy, we have sins, we have ghafla, we have heedlessness. Still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us and gives us and grants us His companionship in this dunya. Huwa ma'akum aina ma kuntum. That wherever you are, I am with you. Such a loving Lord, such a Kareem Lord, that He is with us wherever we are, whether in the masjid, whether outside on the street, on the road, in the market, in the university, outside, wherever we are, Allah is with us. Unless the person thinks that, okay, Allah is with us, but He's sort of distant from us. He is my distant companion. No. Allah Ta'ala just takes the next step. فَإِنِّي قَرِيب, that I'm qareeb to you. I'm near to you. And how near am I to you? نَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. Allah says that I'm closer to you than your own jugular vein. I'm closer to you than your own very self. That's how close, that's how akrab Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us every single moment. Even when a person is sinning, even when we are sinning, even when we are disobeying, even when a person is disbelieving, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closer to that person than their own very self. And then if a person starts to remember Allah, come back to Allah, then Allah Ta'ala takes it one step further. فَذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. That if you remember me, if you start remembering me, if you don't neglect me, you come back to me and think about me and remember me, do zikr of me, then I will remember you. Allah Akbar. These two words, एक पूरे समंदर को कूजे के अंदर बंद कर दिया. Two words, Fadhkuruni. If you remember me, I will remember you. Now think about दुनिया के अंदर when you have a relationship, a ताल्लुक with someone, तो होता ये है कि जिससे मोहब्बत होती है, जहाँ दिल अटका हुआ होता है, तो फिर दिल वहीं अटका रहता है, ख्यालात भी वहीं होते हैं. और फिर अगर कोई आके कहे ना कि फला याद कर रही थी, फला तो मैं याद कर रही थी, तो फिर आप पूछते हैं, अच्छा बताओ क्या कह रही थी? What was she saying? You want to know more, right? You feel excited, you feel interested, you feel passionate about it. Tell me more, tell me more. Tell me each and everything she was saying about me. Because आपका तज़किरा हो रहा था, right? Imagine that कौन आपका तज़किरा कर रहा है यहाँ? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing your tazkirah. Allah is remembering you. You become the object of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you remember Him, it's immediate. There is no delay here. There's no time delay. The moment you sit here, remember Allah Ta'ala for 2 minutes. For those 2 minutes, you are being remembered by Allah. You are the object of the desire of Allah. You are the object of the remembrance of Allah. You are the object of the zikr of Allah. And when Allah does your zikr, Allah Ta'ala इस तरह zikr नहीं करते आपने कहा Allah 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 बंदा 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 ऐसा नहीं होता. When Allah does your zikr, Allah remembers you, that Allah will shower His rahmat into your heart. Allah will put nur in your heart. Whatever filth, whatever blackness, whatever sins, whatever there is inside the heart, Allah will purify it. That's how Allah remembers us. Allah fills our heart with His muhabbat, with His love. Allah purifies our heart, completely shines our heart, polishes our heart. So this is an incredible thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is willing to offer us. And another thing beautiful about this relationship is that all of us, we have muhabbat of Allah. Isme koi shak nahi hai. Because we have iman. Iman is what ki daleel hai that we have muhabbat in Allah. It's just that there are different levels of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like you have a thermal energy of water. Ek hota hai pani, sada pani. You increase the temperature, कहते हैं तो ये थोड़ा सा हल्का गर्म है, फिर गर्म है, फिर चाय बनानी पड़ती है तो there is a खोलता गर्म पानी होता है, boiling, scorching, scalding hot water. Exactly in the same way you have individuals, people of Iman. The thermal energy of the muhabbat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different. And what Allah wants from us, for the ayah that I recited at the beginning, is what Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. That the believers, the true believers, are those who are extremely intense, intensely extreme in their love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the real extremism in our deen. Right? This is the real extremism, to have this shadeed tar muhabbat of Allah, and this is the goal. This is why Allah sent us here on this earth, to get this shadeed muhabbat. And when a person takes a step on this direction, what does a person get? When a person advances to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Hadith Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you come to me a handspan, I will come to you an arm's length. If you come to me an arm's length, I will come to you walking. فَإِنْ أَتَانِي يَمْشِي. If you come to me walking, فَأَتَيْتُ هَرْوَلًا. I will come to you running, fleeing, racing. Imagine for a moment that individual, when Allah Ta'ala's rahmat is racing towards that person, क्या जिंदगी होगी, क्या मजा होगा, क्या लुत्फ होगा. Even an atheist को बताएं कि imagine there is an individual and Allah Ta'ala's mercy is coming, fleeing in that person, वो भी कहेगा कि क्या जबरदस्त जिंदगी होगी, even though that doesn't believe in Allah. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is offering. And what is that life? When Allah Ta'ala's mercy comes fleeing to that person, in that person's life, in every aspect of that person's life, Allah says in Quran, these people will become the friends of Allah. And about the friends of Allah, Ta'ala says that these are the awliya, the friends of Allah. La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. They have no khawf in their life, no external, no khawf, no danger, no threat, no external threat in their life whatsoever. وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. And there is no huzn in their lives. कोई huzn नहीं होता, कोई परेशानी नहीं होती. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is offering. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is offering us His companionship, His muhabba, His love. और ये तो दुनिया के अंदर लुत्फ है, दुनिया के अंदर मजे हैं. इसके बाद जो असल मजा है, the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us is for the lutf of akhirah. And the lutf of akhirah kis tarah se shuru hota hai? Just to start, imagine, right? The start of the lutf of akhirah, don't think that the pleasures of Jannah hai ki hoore milengi, kusure milengi, mehlat honge, Jannah, yo to hota hi hai. That to you already get. The real husn, the real lutf, the real maza, which is the lutf of your sixth sense, your qalb. What Allah says is that when a person will be raised up on that day, it will begin with the ru'yat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the vision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wujuhu yawma idhin nadira. The Jannati people will be raised up, they will enter into Jannah, their faces will be radiant, munawwar, will be alert, will be fresh. And then ila rabbiha nazira, they'll be looking at their Rabb. This is how it's going to start. Their faces will be fresh and alert, and they'll be gazing at their Lord, they'll be gazing at their Rabb. This will be the first moment of resurrection, ru'yat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That being who has created beauty itself, and you will look at the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day. This is what has been made for us. This is why we exist, to get this lazzat of that vision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to get this lutf, to get this haqiqat, to get this marifat, to get this muhabbat. This is the destination. And then on that day Allah says again, La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. No khawf. And this is that day जो कुरान के अंदर बड़े सख्त अल्फाज आते हैं. The day of resurrection, the day of torment, the day of trial, the day of reckoning. सख्त अल्फाज है, भारी अल्फाज है. But for the lovers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who made themselves pleasing in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah says, La khawfun alayhim. No khawf on that. वला हम यहज़नून, कोई गम ही नहीं होगा, ना कोई बाहर गम है, ना कोई अंदर गम है. And then there is a hadith which tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will address the Jannati. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala पहले कुछ कलाम होगा. सैयदना दाऊद अलैहिस्सलाम को बुलाया जाएगा. सैयदना दाऊद अलैहिस्सलाम के बारे में आता है कि उनको अल्लाह ताला gave him a very melodious voice. And when he used to recite the Zabur, जो परिंदे होते थे और जो पहाड़ होते थे वो मिलके जिक्र करते थे, वो मिलके they used to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first Sayyidina Dawood al-Islam will be called and he will be asked to recite the Zabur. And all the Jannati people will be enjoying that sama. वो भी एक मजा होगा, वो भी एक महफिल होगी, listening to this Zabur being recited by Sayyidina Dawood al-Islam. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu. And Nabi al-Islam will come and recite Surah Yasin. And all the Jannati will be listening. And then it comes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself will come and will recite Surah Rahman. And Quran, Hadith Mubarakah mein aata hai that the Ahl Jannat, they will be made to enter into a court where marrataini, every day, twice every day, yakra'u alayhimul Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will recite Quran upon them. Imagine that moment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be doing qiraat of the Quran. We get goosebumps when we listen to Qari Sudais, Taraweeh, Makkah Mukarramah, Madinah Tayyibah. This is 2 times a day, every day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reciting Quran. And then in Jannat, Allah will give multiple gardens, multiple rivers. And the ultimate ni'mat in Jannat will be the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the surur of Allah. Allah says, وَالرِّضْوَانُ مِنَ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. But the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be the greatest ni'mat. And he will have felicity, sukoon, itminan, falah on that. In other words, they will become eternally, they will live eternally as the objects of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will live eternally as the beloveds of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah. And we can get all of that in Akhirah by making ourselves pleasing to Him in this dunya. Radiyatam maradiya. You make yourself radi with Allah, pleasing to Allah, Allah becomes pleasing with you. This is the reason why Quran was sent. This is the reason why the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam was sent. And another thing, the Sahaba Ikram, they got this ni'mat, not in Akhirah, they'll get this ni'mat here in this dunya. The Sahaba were the greatest of the Mu'mineen. They got this ridwan, this pleasure of Allah in this dunya. Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. Allah is pleased with them and they're pleased with Allah. Again here, there were some individuals like that who worked on themselves, who got that ridwan here in this dunya. This is the deen of Islam which has come to uplift humanity. Take them to that level where they can rise even above the ranks of the angels, the malaika. This is Quran. In fact, there is a beautiful hadith which mentions that there was a Sahabi once, Ubay bin Qad radiyallahu ta'ala an. Once the Prophet ﷺ came to him and said that, Ubay, recite Surah Bayyinah for me. recite Surah Bayyana for me. And that Sahabi says that I just andaz se the Prophet ﷺ asked him this question, he felt that there's very something special about this request that the Prophet ﷺ is making to me. And then he asked this question to the Prophet ﷺ, that did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask you to ask me to recite Surah Bayyana? And the Prophet ﷺ said, Naam, yes. Allah Ta'ala told me that I should ask you that you should recite Surah Bayyana. And then he went ahead and asked the second question, that did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take my name? Allahu Sammani. Did Allah take my name? The Prophet ﷺ said, Naam, Allahu Sammak. Yes, Allah Ta'ala took your name. This question, rationally, you will never be able to understand. That the Sahaba is asking this question to the Prophet ﷺ, that did Allah Ta'ala take my name? There was something about the way the Prophet ﷺ asked this, he knew that this is something यहाँ से नहीं आ रहा, ये ऊपर से आ रहा है. ये पैगाम कहीं और से आ रहा है. उन्होंने सवाल भी पूछ लिया कि अल्लाह ताला ने मेरा नाम लिया क्या? मैं कहा अल्लाह ताला ने नाम लिया. ऐसे लोग थे. These were the epitome of رضي الله عنه ورضوا عنه, of أشد حبا لله, of يحبهم ويحبونه. The battle that we are fighting in this dunya is this battle between ishq of Allah and fisk. Ishq is to love Allah Ta'ala unconditionally, and fisk is the other opposite, which is to sin openly, to sin remorselessly, sin unthinkingly, sin unrepentantly. This is the battle. शुरू से चला आ रहा है और चलता रहेगा क़यामत तक. Ishq of Allah Ta'ala versus fisk. If only we need to flip our passions, the passions that we have, the passions that we have for the dunya. If we can flip them, if we can love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with that same level of passion with which we love the dunya, we'll become the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This dunya has ensnared us by making us love it. Allah says in Quran that shaitan, he deceives us, he deludes us, he makes this dunya attractive to us. And as a result, a person gives into their desire. We give into our desires, we give into our khwahishat, we give into our yearnings. If we can flip all of these desires and passions and yearnings that we have for the dunya and give all of that to Allah, थोड़ा सा इश्क यहाँ भी दे दें अल्लाह ताला को, थोड़ी सी मोहब्बत अल्लाह को भी दे के देखें, फिर देखें क्या होता है. इश्क करना आता है हमें, ऐसी बात नहीं है किसी को इश्क करना नहीं आता. इश्क बहुत अच्छा आता है. अगर वही इश्क थोड़ा सा अल्लाह को दे दे, मोहब्बत करनी आती है. अगर वही मोहब्बत, हजरत एक शेख थे, ये said that मुझे मोहब्बत एक औरत ने सिखाई, मुझे मोहब्बत एक औरत ने सिखाई. वो औरत थी, निकाब पहन के, she came to a sheikh and she said that I want you to give me a fatwa, write a fatwa for me that my husband cannot marry a second wife. वो शेख थे, उन्होंने कहा कि ये कैसा मुश्किल काम है. उनको समझाने की कोशिश करी कि अब इजाजत है, अब मुझे मसला बताएं क्या है. तो she said कि अगर मुझे इजाजत होती तो मैं ये अपना चेहरे से पर्दा हटाती and you would have seen my beauty, और फिर आप मजबूर होते कि जिस शख्स की इतनी खूबसूरत बीवी है उसको हक नहीं मानता है कि किसी और से शादी करे. वो शेख कहता हूँ उस वक्त मुझे समझ में आई कि औरत की इतनी गैरत होती है तो अल्लाह ताला की कितनी गैरत होगी. That being who created beauty itself, how beautiful would that being be? हसन बसरी रहमतुल्लाह अलैह, उनके बराबर में पड़ोसी थे, मियाँ बीवी के आपस में कुछ आवाजें आ रही थी. तो उन्होंने सुना कि बीवी कह रही थी that आपने मुझे अपने, she was telling this to her husband, फिर आपने मुझे बहुत ही फ्रूगली रखा हुआ है, खाना कम मिलता है, तंग माहौल है, लेकिन मैंने सारी मुश्किलात को बर्दाश्त किया, मुझे आपसे मोहब्बत है. मैंने सारी तकलीफों में बर्दाश्त किया, मैंने सारे मुजाहिदात को बर्दाश्त किया, लेकिन I cannot bear कि आप किसी और, ये मोहब्बत वाली नजर किसी और पे डालें, ये मैं बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकती. हर चीज बर्दाश्त कर सकती हूँ लेकिन ये चीज बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकती. वो कहते मैंने जब कुरान की आयत खोली तो सामने लिखा हुआ था कि अल्लाह ताला will forgive every sin except for shirk. यानी अल्लाह ताला हर गुनाह को माफ कर देते हैं लेकिन उसको नहीं माफ करते. यानी अगर इंसान दुनिया में से तौबा कर ले तो ये भी माफ हो जाता है. Now, what will enable us to make this flip? How can we make this flip? And there's only one thing. There's only one thing that can enable us to make this flip, and that is to focus on the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. यहाँ हम गलती करते हैं, यहाँ हम मायूस हो जाते हैं अपने गुनाहों को देख के कि मैं तो बदल ही नहीं सकता, मैं तो कुछ कर ही नहीं सकता. And this is classic शैतान. शैतान के बारे में there's a misconception. People think that the greatest sin of शैतान was कि वो तकब्बुर में आके उसने सजदा नहीं किया. ये असल में that was not the root. गलती हो गई, ठीक है, सजदा नहीं किया. उसके बाद if he wanted he could have made तौबा to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. लेकिन वो अल्लाह ताला की रहमत से मायूस हो गया था. He became, he displayed from the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. अल्लाह ताला की रहमत से मायूस हो गया था, इस वजह से उसने तौबा नहीं करी. अगर तौबा कर लेता तो शैतान को भी अल्लाह ताला माफ फरमा देता. So the real sin of shaitan was that he displayed from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is precisely the technique, the strategy that shaitan uses with us. That any time we commit a sin, shaitan puts that waswasa of now it's over, doomed. आप तो बन ही नहीं सकते कुछ, आप तो आगे बढ़ ही नहीं सकते, आप तो नेक हो ही नहीं सकते. ये वसवसा शैतान डालता था कि पहले कदम पे कोई अल्लाह का मोहब्बत करना चाहता है, कोई अल्लाह के करीब आना चाहता है, कोई अल्लाह को राजी करना चाहता है, कोई अल्लाह का दोस्त बनना चाहता है, पहले कदम पे शैतान वही रोक देता है कि तुम अपने आप को तो देखो, look at yourself in the mirror, तुम कैसे नेक बन सकते हो, इतने इतने बड़े बड़े गुनाह किए हुए. वो शैतान मायूस कर देता है, हालांकि हकीकत कुछ और है. If you look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares himself as Ar-Rahman. The two sifat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses to introduce himself, the two sifat, the two names are Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. Beautiful names, full of marifat. Ar-Rahman means that being who is full of mercy, mercy incarnate. And Ar-Rahim means that being who is the dispenser of that infinite mercy. एक चीज होती है मालदार होना, to have a lot of wealth, और एक होता है to spend that wealth in a very generous way. अगर कोई मालदार है लेकिन कंजूस है, मसला है, माल का क्या फायदा जब खर्च ही नहीं करता. And if there is someone who spends a lot but doesn't have money, that's also a problem. मजा तो उस वक्त है कि मालदार भी हो और खर्च भी दोनों हाथों से करे. Ar-Rahman means that being who is full of infinite mercy, the possessor of infinite mercy, and Ar-Rahim means that being who is the dispenser of that infinite mercy. Allah Akbar. This is who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. No one is outside the folds of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So only leaving Iman can put a person outside the folds of Allah's mercy. No matter how big a sin a person has done. जितना बड़े से बड़ा गुनाह किया हो, Allah Ta'ala can forgive every single sin. There is no sin that a human being can do all the way up to kufr and shirk that cannot be forgiven in this world. Every sin can be forgiven in this world. Every sin. Every sin. This is the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one is outside the folds of the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. And इसमें हमारा कमाल नहीं है. This is the greatness of the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. Allah says in Quran that وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِيَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. That my rahmat, my mercy, it encompasses every single thing. और हम इसी आयत से लेकिन we can make a dua to Allah that या Allah आपने कुरान में फरमाया that your rahmat encompasses every single thing. Allah मैं कुछ हूँ या ना हूँ, think तो हो ना. I'm a thing. And your mercy encompasses every single thing. Means Allah, your mercy is over me as well. I asked you for that mercy. We are here to make ourselves the magnets of that mercy. Every single ayat, if we do amal, you become the magnet of that mercy. Every single hadith, when you do amal, you become a magnet of that mercy. Every single sunnah that you adorn yourself with, every command that you follow of Allah, you become a magnet. You're attracting these mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Qurtubi is a very big mufassir of the Quran. I will wind up by mentioning a few ayat where Allah Ta'ala speaks about His mercy. And these are ayat which have been compiled by Allama Qurtubi, who is one of the greatest mufassir of the Quran. And he mentions that there are certain ayat in the Quran which speaks about the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. And he mentions that there are certain Sahaba Ikram who would ponder and reflect on these ayat, and these ayat would give them a lot of hope. So what are those ayat? Let's look at them one by one. And these are the ayat which gave them the most hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he used to say that there is this one special khas ayat of the Quran that gives him this khas hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is that ayah, Surah number 17, ayah number 84, where Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran that, oh my beloved Messenger say to the people, كُلٌّ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى شَاكِلَتِي فَرَبُّكُمْ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنْ هُوَ أَهْدَى سَبِيلًا. That, oh my beloved Messenger say that kullukum, each and every one, each and every being, they do amal according to their disposition. यानी अपने मिजाज के मुताबिक हर इंसान हर शय अमल करती है. Every person does amal according to their mizaj. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to recite this verse, and then he would reflect upon this ayah in the following way. He would say that, Ya Allah, if every person does amal according to the way they are, यानी अपनी सिफत, अपने मिजाज, अपने टेम्परामेंट के मुताबिक हर बंदा अमल करता है, तो या अल्लाह आप भी अमल करेंगे अपनी सिफत के मुताबिक. You will also do amal according to your sifat, according to your mizaj, your tabiyat. And Allah, आपकी जो सिफात हैं वो तो आप रहीम हैं, आप करीम हैं. You are Rahim, you are all merciful, you are mercy giving. So when I look at this ayah, but you have said that your mercy prevails over your wrath. Your mercy, your rahmat, it prevails over your anger. When I look at this ayah, he says, I found hope in this ayah. तो जब हर इंसान हर शय अपने मिजाज के मुताबिक अमल करेगा, तो या अल्लाह आपकी रहमत की सिफत सबसे गालिब है और आप फिर अपने बंदों के साथ रहमत के साथ अमल करेंगे. This ayat would used to give him the greatest hope. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he used to take hope. He says, I found the mercy of Allah ta'ala in this ayat of the Quran. Then Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he used to mention another ayah, said that this ayat gives me the greatest hope. Allah says, غَافِرِ الزَّنْبِ وَقَابِلِ التَّوْبِ شَدِيدِ الْعِقَابِ ذِي الطَّوْلِ. What does it mean? Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he says that I feel most hopeful when I think and reflect on this ayat of the Quran. Why? Because, Ya Allah, in this ayat, first you are saying, Ghafir Zambi. Allah is the forgiver of sins. Wa Qabil Tawbi. And then after that, Allah says that I am the acceptor of Tawbah. And then only at the end, Allah says, Shadid al-Iqab. That Allah is stern when it comes to punishment. लेकिन पहले किस चीज का तस्करा किया? अल्लाह ताला ने अपनी मगफिरत का, अपनी रहमत का. So on this, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu used to say that Allah Ta'ala ne chunke pehle apna maghfirat ka tazkara kiya, that Allah wants to forgive their sins. Means that Allah Ta'ala ke irada hai that Allah Ta'ala wants to forgive. He first wants to forgive the sins of the people. He wants to accept the tawbah. It's only when a person doesn't ask for forgiveness, doesn't make tawbah, only then the other part of the ayat applies that Allah is Shadeed. So Sayyidina Umar, he had hope in this ayat of the Quran. He used to recite this ayat and he would make istighfar and tawbah because Allah says, غَافِرِ الذَّنْبِ وَقَابِلِ التَّوْبِ. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen to describe himself in the Quran. What a Kareem and a Rahim Rabb, Allah Akbar. That I am the forgiver of sins and I am the acceptor of your tawbah. This is our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our Rabbul Alameen. This is our Ilah. Subhanallah. And then Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he had another ayat. Nabbi ibadi anni anal ghafurur rahim. You can really enjoy this if you know Arabic language. Nabbi ibadi, कि मेरे बंदों को बता दें, inform my servants, क्या अन्नी अनल गफूर और रहीम, यानी ऐलान कर दे मेरे बंदों को, बता दे कि मैं गफार भी हूं, गफूर भी हूं और रहीम भी हूं. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the voice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a certain usloob in the Quran. Sometimes Allah ta'ala tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly, sometimes tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to tell the believers, kya? That indeed I'm the all forgiving and I'm the all merciful, I'm the all rahim. So this ayat Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he used to recite and reflect and yearn and hope for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he also had an ayat of the Quran, which he felt gave him a lot of hope in the mercy of Allah ta'ala. And that ayat is in Surah Zumar. Allah ta'ala says, Qul, O my beloved Messenger sallam, say to the people, Ya ibadiyalladhina asrafu ala anfusihim la taqnatu min rahmatillah. It's a beautiful ayat of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing a particular group of people. Let me translate this in reverse order, backwards first. Who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressing? Alladhina asrafu ala anfusihim. वो लोग जिन्होंने अपनी जानों पे जुल्म किया, यानी गुनाह किया. That fits our category. This ayat is for us, right? Those people who have done zulm on themselves, who have wronged themselves, who have bruised themselves, who have scarred themselves, who went the other way. These are the people. Muttaqin are not being dressed. This ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing a very particular set of people. Alladhina asrafu ala anfusihim, those who have wronged themselves by committing sin. And what does Allah ta'ala say? The first thing is the way Allah is addressing them. Allah says, Ya ibadi. Ibadi, oh mere bando, my servants. यानी इंसान अगर एक ऐसा होता है ना कि when a father he wants his son is upset with him, तो क्या होता है? When the father is angry, he doesn't want to speak to his child. He says, go. बल्कि कभी कभार तो माँ से कहता है कि आप बेटे को समझा दे कि अगर वो सुधरा नहीं तो मैं ये कर दूंगा. Right? वो बात ही नहीं करना चाहते. That's how the parents become. But look at the andaz that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using here. Not that you become a stranger. Allah is saying, Ya ibadi, you are my servant, mere bando. And ibadi ke andar there is a ya at the end. This ya has the secret of Allah Ta'ala's love. Means mere bando, my servants. No matter how much you have sinned, no matter what type of sins you have done in your life, no matter you have spent your entire lifetime sinning against me, know that you are still mine. Mere. There is no sin that you can take me out of this fact that you're still mine. So, mere bande. You're still mine. And then what Allah says is that La taqnatu min rahmatillah. So do not ever despair from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not ever, never despair from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because Inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'an. Know that Allah is that big who will forgive all your sins. Jamia, you know Arabic, you know Urdu enough. Every single sin Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to remove. Allah ta'ala wants to wipe it away. And innahu huwa al-ghafur rahim. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a ghafur. He is the most forgiving. He is the most merciful. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introducing himself in the Quran, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And then one of my own teachers used to say that I also have an ayat of the Quran, which gives me a lot of hope. And it's a very beautiful ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah yuhibbu tawwabin. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those people who repent of their sins. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have said in this ayah that Inna Allah ghafir tawwabin. Allah Ta'ala forgives those who make tawbah. Allah accepts the tawbah of those who make tawbah. Allah Ta'ala sends mercy on those who make tawbah. So look at what Allah Ta'ala is saying. No, Allah is saying that Allah loves those people who make tawbah. They become the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This means this ayat is for the sinners. This ayat is for the sinners. It means that there is, for the sinners, there is a way they can become the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a way that we can become the mahabub of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. यानी अल्लाह ताला या अल्लाह आपकी शान तो ये है कि जो मुत्तकी है जो नेक लोग हैं वही अल्लाह ताला के महबूब बन सके लेकिन दिस इज एन आयत फॉर द सिनर्स अल्लाह ताला ने हमें रास्ता बताया कि यू कैन आल्सो वी कैन आल्सो बिकम द महबूब ऑफ अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला गुनाह तो कर दिए अच्छा तौबा करने के लिए गुनाह करना लाजमी शर्त है अगर गुनाह किया ही नहीं है तो तौबा कैसे करेंगे तो गुनाह करेंगे तो ही इस आयत पे अमल कर सकते हैं Now the Guna part, we have that down. We completed 50% of the journey. Guna part is done, right? The remaining 50% of the journey is left, which is just to make tawbah of that sin. Inna Allah yuhibbu tawwabin. Allah is saying, I'm going to make you my beloved. When we write our letters, right, to the people we love in the dunya, my darling, my dearest, right? This is an ayat where Allah Ta'ala is addressing the sinners. And what is Allah Ta'ala saying? That, oh my dearest, darling, beloved sinner. This is Quran. This is Inna Allah yuhibbu tawwabin. मैंने दलील के साथ बात कर रहा हूँ. I'm not making this up. It's not Sufi stuff. This is Quran Azim wa Shan. That Allah loves those sinners who can connect back to Him and make tawbah. And now I'm going to end with a few stories. The first story is actually a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that once Nabi Wasallam, he was going with the Sahaba Ikram, they were returning from jihad, and they prayed Asr. And after Asr Salah, the Prophet ﷺ was making dua for maghfirah for the entire ummah. They set up a camp by the river. And after the Prophet he made dua for maghfirah for the entire ummah, Allah subhanahu sent a small bird, a chiriya. And that small bird took a few grains of sand in its beak, and then it would go put those grains on the river, and he would drop those grains on the river. Then again कुछ दाने उठाएगी, again पानी पे गिरा देगी, फिर again कुछ दाने उठाएगी, again पानी पे गिरा देगी. This continued for some time. The Prophet watched this. After some time, Jibreel alayhi salam, he came, and the Prophet asked him, that Jibreel, ye kya maamla ho raha hai? So Jibreel alayhi salam, he said that, oh my beloved, oh beloved messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah ta'ala has sent this bird to show you what His mercy and what His rahmat is like. That you just made dua for the maghfirah for your whole ummah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this bird, Allah ta'ala sent this bird to show you that the sins of your entire ummah in the face of my mercy are like those sand particles which are being dropped in this ocean. Allah Ta'ala की रहमत वो बहते समंदर की मानंद है और पूरी उम्मत के गुनाह अगर मिल भी जाएं उनकी हैसियत वो दाने के जर्रे के बराबर भी नहीं. अल्लाह अकबर कबीरा. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sending Jibreel alayhi salam to tell Sayyidina Rasulullah who told us what the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like. This is our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our deen. This is the beauty in our deen. This is the beauty in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will mention 3 stories from Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam before we end. First story is that once Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wassalam, he was Kalimullah. He had this special azaz, this honor to do kalam with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he had this conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that, Ya Allah, I want to know that when an obedient servant turns to you, calls you, makes dua to you, how do you respond to him? Mutti, farmabradar shakhs, when he comes to you, how do you respond to him? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Qala aqulu labbaik. I reply and I say labbaik, that Ya Allah, Allah says, मैं हाजिर हूँ. बंदे मुझे बताओ क्या चाहिए? I'm here for you. Then Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam asked a second question that Allah, how do you respond when a Zahid person, yani a person who has left the dunya and is living a life of simplicity, sadgi, right? How do you respond when that person calls you? And again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Qala aqul labbaik. I reply and I say that labbaik, my servant, I'm here for you. Then he asked, Sayyidina Musa asked a third question that, Ya Allah, when a rozetar, when a saim, fasting person calls you, how do you respond to that person's call? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Qala aqulu labbaik. I say, labbaik, I'm here for you. And then the fourth time, Sayyidina Musa asked, Ya Allah, when a gunagar, when a sinner, when someone who has committed mistakes, when this person calls upon you, Allah, how do you respond? Qala, Allah Ta'ala said, Akulu, I say to my person, I say to my servant, Labbaik, Labbaik, Labbaik. 3 times. कोई इबादत करने वाला बंदा, he calls Allah Ta'ala once, Labbaik. When my sinner calls upon me, 3 times Allah Ta'ala welcomes that individual. Labbaik, Labbaik, Labbaik. And then Allah Ta'ala addressed Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam that Musa, iski wajah, the reason is because when that obedient person was calling upon me, उसकी नजर अपनी इबादत के ऊपर थी. When the रोजेदार was calling upon me, उसकी नजर अपने रोजे के ऊपर थी. When the zahid person was calling upon me, उसकी नजर अपने zuhud के ऊपर थी. Lekin when this gunagar person was calling upon me, when my sinner was calling upon me, his nazar was not on anything that he had. His nazar was on my rahmat. Or Musa, that فَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. That whoever relies upon me, I will become sufficient for that individual. Whoever relies on the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah ta'ala welcomes that person 3 times, Allah ta'ala becomes sufficient for that individual. There's another story from Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. At one point in the community, Bani Israel, what happened was there was a drought. पानी बारिश नहीं हो रही थी. So all the people, they started praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for rain. Still there's no rain. Then they went to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and requested that if you can make a request to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah can shower us with rain. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he went to Kohitur, he made dua to Allah ta'ala, requested Allah ta'ala that Allah, लोगों पे पानी नहीं है, ना पीने को, ना जीने को, ना रहने को, ना सहने को. Allah रहमत फरमा दे, बारिश अता फरमा दे. When he made this dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala की तरफ से जवाब आया, Tero Musa, how can I send rain when there is this one person in that community जिसने इतने बड़े बड़े गुनाह किए हुए? Ask that person to leave this society, this community, and then बारिश हो जाएगी. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he came back. He came back with this message. What is the message? That there's a particular sin, there's a particular person who's done some particular sin, and because of that sin, this rahmat, this barish has been stopped for that community. So when Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he received this revelation, he came back, he communicated this message with his community. He called the entire community and said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told me that the rain will not come unless there is one person in our gathering जिसने गुनाह किया है, and when he leaves this gathering, only then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shower us with this rain. Abhi Sayyidina Musa had just made this announcement that achanak the clouds start to come and it starts to rain. No one has left, but बारिश होना शुरू हो जाती है. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam हैरान है. He turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Allah, you just sent me a revelation that the rain is not coming because there's one particular person who has done some particular sins, and unless he leaves this community, rain will not come down, and all of a sudden now it started raining. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a revelation back to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and said that Musa, that person, he has made tawbah. That person, he has made tawbah, that gunagar, that sinner, he has made tawbah and he has made this tawbah in his heart to me.